The IPFW men's volleyball team returned home to the Gates Sports Center this past weekend to take on two MIVA conference opponents. Unfortunately for the Mastodons, they lost both matches at the hands of Lewis University and Loyola University Chicago. I'll be joined this week by head men's volleyball coach Ryan Perrotte to discuss both matches as well as previewing a very crucial conference weekend coming up for the Mastodons. During this week's Spotlight segment, I'll be joined by redshirt junior Scott McNerney. I'm your host, Jordan Armstrong. Stay tuned for more here on VolleyDons Weekly on CTV. Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host, Jordan Armstrong. A quick shout out to our sponsors, Alco, Active Ankle, ASICS, Glenbrook Dodge, and Hyatt Place. As I mentioned during the opening, the Mastodons returned to the Gates Sports Center this past weekend to play on Arnie Ball Court against both Lewis University and Loyola University Chicago. Both opponents being ranked inside of the AVCA Coaches Poll Top 15, the Mastodons were unsuccessful in taking a set off either opponent, getting swept in both matches. Joining me now is head men's volleyball coach Ryan Perrotte. It felt good to be home for a change, but unfortunately the result wasn't that different for us.
After the, how many outtakes? 6 outtakes?
It was 6
You just
today.
had 6 outtakes for the opening. I'm sitting here under these unbelievable spotlights.
They really show off the color of your
I was
skin.
working on this tan. I got an unbelievable tan watching you do your opening segment. I'm ready for Puerto Rico.
2 weeks?
I'm ready for Puerto Rico. That's all you need to do. I'm not going to burn in Puerto Rico at all. I am ready for PR.
I don't think either of us are going to burn in Puerto Rico. Some of our players might, though.
Well, it's because I'll be in the water or indoors the entire time. So
Water or indoors? No golf course? No beach time? Just in the water or the hotel?
I'll only play golf if it's an educational experience.
I think it would be because you'd be learning a course for the first time.
A little bit.
Can chalk it up that way.
I've played there before.
Oh.
What was your question? Something about being home?
Yeah, and losing.
Being home. Yeah, it felt nice to be at home.
It did. Got to sleep in our own beds for the whole week, get some home cooking.
Yeah, see, I don't look at the losing part as, because I don't look at it as the end result of something, because I have to tell myself that it's a process.
I would agree with that, especially because while we were unsuccessful this weekend in both of our matches, the growth and development in a lot of different areas might speak more volumes, especially heading into this coming weekend.
Yeah, but I don't even know if I can say that because, A, we changed our lineup from Friday to Saturday, and B, it's very difficult to see the growth and the progress when you're losing consistently. And that's a very tough thing to do as a player and as a coach. I think, however, there are some bright sides to the weekend, even though the results weren't what we wanted them to. And I can only hope that moving forward, it'll pay dividends in the long run down in the end part of March and the early part of April.
Well, looking back at the box scores from both matches, something that I didn't notice until just now when I looked down at my paper, with the exception of 2 set scores being flipped, the point spread was exactly the same between both matches, Friday and Saturday. We lost 25-23 in the opening set of both matches, and then Friday night against Lewis, we lost 25-19 in the second, 25-22 in the third, and then Saturday afternoon against Loyola, we lost 25-22 in the second, and then 25-19 in the third.
So what you're telling me is I should contact my bookie and place a bet of some kind? Is that
Possibly. That might be something to look forward to.
It's very interesting because I go through numbers too, and I didn't know that when you look at the numbers. What's interesting when you take a look at the numbers, and there are so many different things, and I think I told the audience viewing out there, 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend, and 3 is a bona fide problem. It's an old Chris Berman line. And when you take a look at our stats, and because we have not gotten the results that we wanted, you look at so many trends, and these trends are turning into bona fide problems. For example, one of the statistics that I find overwhelming when I went through it is the fact that we have 100 more swing attempts than our opponents. 100 more. We also have 100 more errors made or committed than our opponents. And it's one of the things that we've been striving for is to limit our errors, because what you talk about in those point differentials is what we stress on a daily basis in regards to our player performance or production, is if the team that makes the less errors will win more times than not. because we're making those errors, those point differentials of 2 points or 3 points are magnified because of just that.
And speaking of errors, you alluded to a little bit earlier the fact that we started with one lineup that had been one that we had used when we were successful over in George Mason and NJIT on Friday night. That lineup proved to be a little bit successful at times, but proved to cost us a little bit towards the end of sets with those errors accumulating. So then Saturday, we really completely switched up our lineup and threw a whole new set out there in terms of personnel and the spots that they were playing, switching Andy Sellen, who played on the opposite, over to the left side, and then bringing in freshman Alex Dickman to the right side. How do you think those adjustments or that different personnel changed or impacted our performance from Friday night's match into Saturday?
Well, I think it helped. And the impact was significant because, number one, we played a much bigger volleyball team with Loyola Chicago. I mean, they got 2 6'10" middles. They got almost a 7-foot right side. I mean, they're just massive. And part of the reason why I made the change is because Andy, who's a tremendously athletically gifted individual, who played on the right side, I felt could really be successful on the left side. That's number one. Number two is the fact that I didn't think our passing was going to be as steady as it was going to be, which is correct because we were inconsistent. So we would see a lot more out of system balls that he can set high to the left side, Michael Keegan can, so Andy could hit the ball. Number two is Alex Dickman from Chicago, who's a left-handed opposite, who plays on the right side of the floor, his strong side, needs to play more volleyball so he can develop. He's going to be the guy moving forward to replace Andy at the right side. And it brings some athleticism now to the pins with Tony Price, Andy Sellen, and Alex Dickman. The downside to that, however, is that Andy Sellen has not worked on the left side in terms of serve receive or attacking since the fall when we had him there. And that obviously showed up a little bit in Saturday in regards to our serve receive game. So there were some benefits to it, there were some not benefits to it. What I'd like to hope is that over time that can get better, considering the 2 injuries that we have to both Nick and Alex, who both play at that left side spot. This wouldn't be an issue if those 2 individuals are there. Andy can stay on the right-hand side, but because we've kind of searched through the lineup and some players trying to give people an opportunity to play, and not that these individuals like Colton Stone or Scott McNerney or whomever else has played, Austin Neese has played out there, they haven't performed. We just needed to elevate the opportunity for us on the pins to be more athletic, more dynamic, and try and be successful.
Now, if we look to try and find some positives throughout the entire weekend, more of a problem for us earlier in the season was a whole bunch of service errors. It seems like our errors have kind of changed in the way that they've come. We were able to kind of keep that 1 ace per 2 service errors ratio that you kind of like to look for, with having 5 aces and 9 service errors against Lewis, and then 7 aces and 9 errors against Loyola. And then also kind of the steady offensive production that we've now been getting from Tony Price, who switched sides of which left pin he was playing. He was what we consider the next 2 spot, being lined up next to the setter, compared to the 2 away, being 2 people away from the setter. Those things kind of look like positives with the way we've kind of changed our lineup previously entering this weekend. That kind of continued. Moving
Tony Price to the next 2 spot, he's actually played very well. He's hitting about 300. His blocks have come down a little bit, but his defense and his serving has actually improved, moving him to the next 2 spot. The other thing is the fact that he can attack the ball out of the backcourt more, which he's doing. The other positive you talk about in regards to serving, there are 2 categories in which we lead our conference in. One is digs per set. The other one is serving per set. And Andy Sellen in particular, who's worked on his topspin serve with his short serve, has become very, very effective.
He used that a lot this weekend.
Very much so.
Catch teams a little bit off guard.
Very, very much so. And our other guys have actually fed off of the energy of that to serve aggressively and very well. You'll talk to Scott in the Spotlight segment while he and Gabriel and Max Hansen all come off the bench and serve the ball just as efficiently. So it's kind of a contagious kind of thing. When you take a look at our overall team and our overall team's play, I think the one thing that definitely stands out on a positive is the fact that with this particular team, we're more aggressive in the way that we're playing at the service line. And we're actually putting the ball in play to give us an opportunity to score points. Alex Dickman, in his rotation on Saturday, was the #1 point scorer for us. And here's a guy who hadn't played significantly throughout the course of the season. So I just think there are a lot of strengths to it, at least from the service line, and we all know serving and passing is a huge part of the game.
Definitely is. That'll wrap up the first segment for us today. I'll be joined by redshirt junior Scott McNerney coming up in the spotlight. Stay tuned for more on VolleyDons Weekly.
Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne, a crossroads of creativity, a campus where streams of thought and knowledge converge, creative minds working together, sharing ideas, expanding human knowledge, and shaping the future. We forge partnerships that inspire our community and strengthen our region. Our scholars, students, and researchers create work that resonates around the world. This is today's IPFW. This is the Don Difference.
Welcome back to VolleyDons Weekly. In this week's Spotlight segment, I'm joined by redshirt junior Scott McNerney, who we didn't realize until before we started shooting. This is your first time appearing on VolleyDons Weekly, which was previously named the Arnie Ball Show back when Coach Ball was still here. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you, thank you. It's good to be here.
And good to have you. Definitely, since it's your first time, want to get to know you a little bit, ask you some questions. How long have you been playing volleyball? All of those types of general questions that we would have probably asked you if you had been on the show back when you were a freshman.
Classic. Well, yeah, I've been playing volleyball it's been way too long. I think I started in about 7th grade. I got 3 big brothers that introduced me to it, and it's really been the love of my life ever since, obviously. My big brother Dan actually played here for 4 years. He made it. He was one of the members of the national championship team when they went to the national championship but they fell to UC Irvine, obviously, in 2008, but it was a really good time.
Definitely. So with that, while Rock alluded to a little bit, you positionally as being one of our serve subs, it definitely seems like you've kind of been a jack of all trades over the past couple of years, not only being more consistently in matches a serve sub, but then in practice you'll be a libero every now and then. Sometimes we'll throw you on the left side to be an outside hitter, throw you on the right side. I remember back a couple years ago, Coach Ball would have you do the setting for a whole bunch of drills from time to time. So what is your favorite position that you get to play, or do you like the fact that your role kind of changes so it doesn't really get too stale for you?
That's one of the things I really do like, is the fact that I'm a pretty solid all-around player, I'd like to think, so I get to do a lot of things. I love any part of volleyball, whether it's setting or playing defense or serving, but I think one of my favorite roles is being a serving sub, because even though I'm not a starter or I'm not in there, I get to participate in consistently every match. And it's really a positive aspect for me, because I really get to go in and I get to inspire my teammates and bring something positive to the table, even though I might not be playing the whole game.
Well, you mentioned that you don't necessarily play the whole game, but I know not only from being one of your teammates in the past, but also just seeing you this year, you definitely do bring a lot to our team from not only a energy standpoint, but also from a coaching standpoint, trying to talk to the players a little bit in between points or when timeouts happen. So talk about a little bit how your role in terms of the bench has kind of expanded this year with the departure of some seniors before you, and how you've kind of embraced that as being an upperclassman now.
Yeah, that's very true. In the past years, I've been one of the younger members of the team, and as my role as a serving sub, I'm not a dominant player, so I haven't earned the spot that I can deserve to, not talk down to people, but help them out in situations. But having 8 freshmen come in this year and a 9th redshirt freshman, and me as a redshirt junior, I really have taken that role of, we need people to be able to explain to these younger guys how we do it here. So I'm still doing the old job that I had with a little bit new responsibilities and helping people out understand what we do here and what we can do here.
Now, I would even go further to say that, similar to a lot of bench players that you see now, especially with Monmouth basketball, all the notoriety that they've had recently, our bench celebration and our bench energy game has definitely taken a step up over the past couple of years. Probably about 3 years ago, your freshman, sophomore year is when we really started to make a contribution to be there, be that extra support, be that extra kind of sideshow, as Coach Ball would call us from time to time. So what do you think that really does, not only for the team that's playing on the court, but also for all of you guys that, while you're not actually playing, you're still contributing to the team on the sideline?
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the things I love most about this team is what we do on the bench. It really reflects on how we feel as a team and a family. We really are all friends. We're really all in it together, and the fact that we can support our guys that are out there on the court the way that we do, it's really a great experience for everybody involved. One of the things we try not to do is become over the top. We like to get wild and crazy, but we like to keep it reined in a little bit so that we don't get in trouble from the refs, which has happened in the past. I think you can recall.
Definitely.
But really, we still want a professional aspect about it. It's still about the game, and we can't be getting too crazy out there. But it's a really great experience, especially when we assist the team out there. When the team's down, it really helps to have the bench screaming in their ear, picking them back up, because it really comes down to number 19 on the bench. There's 19 guys on the team, and every one of them matters, especially when we're playing at home or playing in a tough away game. It really comes down to every guy.
Definitely, all things that definitely contribute to how the team performs. Now, looking a little bit about how the team has performed the past couple of weeks, been a little bit of a tough spot losing our previous 5 matches, especially to start conference season. How would you gauge the morale of the team right now with not necessarily the fashion that they've been playing, but how close we've been within the matches, not being able to pull off a match or even most recently pull off a set?
I think that fact right there is the one that really affects everybody the most, is the fact that I've been on teams where we've lost, and we've lost because we lost, but there are times where we could have won this year, and that's the part that really hurts everybody. So the morale is, we know we're better, and we know we could be doing better. And the fact that we haven't produced that is really what's bringing everybody down. Hopefully, knowing that we're coming against 2 good teams this weekend, but teams that we know that we can outperform, I think that's really actually helping our morale. We're kind of looking forward to this weekend and really positively looking at it.
Did you sense this past weekend, being home for the first time in a month, that there was a different feeling amongst the guys just within the preparation, knowing that we didn't have to travel, or knowing that could kind of focus a little bit more on schoolwork, didn't have to worry about getting things done ahead of time or what you were missing in class heading into at least last week's matches?
Absolutely. One of the best things was obviously not coming off of the bus. Being on the bus for so many hours these past couple of weeks, nothing's harder than getting off the bus and playing volleyball for 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever it ended up being. But there really was. We really had a chance to relax, focus more on what we needed to focus on, cook some home meals like you said earlier, and it was a good opportunity for us. I wish we could have pulled off some wins from that, but looking forward, I think we'll be able to do it this weekend.
Now, volleyball aside, we like to talk here on VolleyDons Weekly a little bit about what our student athletes are doing in the classroom, because you are a student athlete at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So tell the folks at home a little bit what you've been studying. Usually we would kind of already have an idea, but as we alluded to, since this is your first time, no one necessarily knows the brainchild that you claim to be from time to time.
I don't know about brainchild, but I am studying mechanical engineering. I've been studying it for 3.5 years now, so I'm well on my way to finishing. I will be staying for my 5th redshirt year next year, so I've spaced my degree out, and I'm hoping to go to grad school, but I'm still in the process of working on that. Some people call me a nerd. I wouldn't say that, but I really do enjoy what I do in the classroom, and I hope someday to be able to put it to use.
Now, you had mentioned before that you'll be back next year since you redshirted. Mm-hmm. Kind of explain, since you're one of the first redshirts that we've had, what that process entailed and how it kind of allowed you to space your academics out over 5 years, which, based off conversations we've had, really helped benefit you, especially with a tough degree like mechanical engineering.
Absolutely. One of the best parts about it was when my freshman year, I was not as strong, I wasn't as prepared, and it was definitely my first year of college. So being a redshirt, I didn't have to travel on as many trips. I got to go to some of the closer trips, but not on any planes or anything like that. So I was really able to focus on my first year and buckle down in the classroom. Moving forward, as I planned my years out, I was able to not have to take as many of the grueling hours as the other engineers in the programs. A lot of semesters there was 17, 18 hours of credits, which really wouldn't work, especially with volleyball. It's just a difficult, grueling schedule. So moving forward, I've only got a couple more classes to take next year, but it really helped me out so I could keep my good grades in the classroom and participate on the volleyball court.
Awesome, and redshirting is something that athletes sometimes do, not only for an academic reason, but sometimes it can be roster space or just really to help them develop a little bit more.
Or injury related.
Or injury related as well, but to help them develop a little bit more, not only inside the classroom, but also in terms of strength, which Scott kind of alluded to a little bit. Once you get your degree in another semester and a year and a half, I should say, excuse me, what is it besides going to grad school that in your perfect world, where you can find yourself possibly having a career?
That's such a tough question. I actually get that question a lot. I think one of the things I really want to do is participate in bettering the world. There's a lot of cool mechanical engineering projects where people, they develop something not just for money, they develop something to make a difference in the world, and that's really something that I'm interested in. There are people who make really cheap shoes for underprivileged people in Africa, and the shoes actually, you can actually change the size of them so the children can grow into them and never have to get another pair of shoes. And that's just something that some guy thought of, and I would love to think of an idea like that where I could really make a difference in the world with the knowledge that I've learned here.
That's all really great stuff. We're definitely glad that you were finally able to make an appearance here on VolleyDons Weekly, and we look forward to seeing not only the energy and the antics that you bring on the sideline, but also you scoring us some great clutch points towards the end of sets as we continue on later in the season.
Thank you.
It was great having you on today, Scott. A big thank you to Scott McNerney for joining us in this week's Spotlight segment. I'll be joined once again during Dishing the Rock by head coach Ryan Rock Perrotte, coming up here on VolleyDons Weekly.
My areas of research focus on the intersection of epistemology and medical ethics. I'm primarily interested in clinical decision making. One way to characterize my work is that I'm curious how decisions go wrong in medicine, both of the physician and for the patient, and even for the policymaker. Then I also do some work in research ethics. How does one respect a patient or research subject while still trying to find robust conclusions that can guide future medical practice?
Welcome back to our final segment of VolleyDons Weekly, Dishing the Rock. Our sponsors this week include IAB, Indiana Physical Therapy, Moulton, O&E, and Pizza Hut. I'm joined now by head men's volleyball coach Ryan Rock Perrotte, and as you say, it's time to dish the rock.
Let's dish the rock. Can I dish the rock on Scott McNerney?
If you want to, you can do whatever you want.
You know what's so interesting about Scott McNerney? First of all, I didn't know about the engineering shoe thing. That you can. I think that's absolutely amazing. I was supposed to be a doctor in my previous lifetime and then flunked grade 5 science, so that was the end of that.
Ooh, early.
But you know what's so amazing about Scott is that he's a second generation athlete here at IPFW. His older brother Dan played here on one of our Final Four teams. And you mentioned it, he's this jack of all trades kind of thing. Scott is an unbelievable team leader. He accepts his role, and we put him in so many roles throughout the course of the season. He accepts it without complaint. He gives his very best effort every day. I'm telling you, if we had 16 Scott McNerneys, it would be a wonderful time. And he is going to have a very special role and be rewarded next year on our volleyball team. Next year. I can't hint to what that is publicly. I will make that announcement in the fall, but something very special is going to happen to Scott in the fall.
Awesome. I'm sure he'll, since he's still here in the studio, he's just itching over there a little bit, wondering what's going on. So you got that teaser going out for him for a couple more months. Something that we didn't get to highlight, another real bright spot for this past weekend during the Lewis match on Friday night, senior libero Luis Bertrand broke a very old record for IPFW men's volleyball, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Luis Bertrand broke Jay Goldstein's dig record. And Jay had held that record since 1989, I believe, 1990 when he graduated. And Jay arguably was the greatest volleyball player ever to play here. And Luis Bertrand, to his credit, broke that record. I think it's 570-something digs. Luis will probably surpass 600 and be the only volleyball player at IPFW history to go over 600. But it's a great testament to Luis for his consistent play and his hard work and drive defensively, and it's an unbelievable achievement. And Jay was there over the weekend to do a presentation with him, and he did some media interview stuff at the end, and it was great to see. And so congratulations to Luis on being the all-time digs leader here at IPFW.
Definitely, and now with last week behind us, practiced yesterday, we'll practice again in a little while today and continuing to the later parts of this week before we play two real crucial conference matches, which we talked about a little bit earlier, but Quincy University and Lindenwood are coming into town, both teams that, similar to us, have been struggling a little bit in conference play. So what is it about this weekend that is so crucial for this volleyball team?
Well, every weekend's crucial, but this one's really crucial because it has playoff implications. Quincy, I believe, has 2 wins.
They are sitting at 2-5 in conference right now.
And they're a very good volleyball team. They're back. They have everybody back from a year ago. They have senior leadership. They have talent on the pins. They have a left-handed outside who's really, really good. They have a talented outside. They have a talented middle. That's a scary volleyball team, and their work ethic is very, very good. You got to really earn your points when you play Quincy.
They've always been one of those teams similar to a Ball State, and if you will, that's very scrappy defensively, keeps the ball up off the ground, except then they'll hit you with their best shot when it comes back on the other side of the net.
And they make you pay, and they can make you pay. And that match scares me a lot. And Lindenwood, who we played in the fall in an exhibition, I thought was very, very good. They were very competitive. A shorter team because they lost a couple of their studs from last year. But they have a really talented outside by the name of Jake Duckworth, who happens to be the younger brother of Ben Duckworth, who a former volleyball player here at IPFW that played with Scott's brother Dan. And they're a nice volleyball team. They're winless. And in our conference, we have 9 teams, and the top 8 make the postseason. So if we can win both of these matches, it would definitely put a leg up in regards to being able to get into the postseason, and that's obviously what we're looking to do.
So looking at not only the lineup change that we made on Saturday, but continuing towards additional improvements that we definitely want to focus on this week in practice, what are the few things that you would like to see the team really grasp onto and implement in strategy and in execution towards our matches this weekend?
Passing's got to get better, blocking's got to get better, and our backcourt defense has got to get better because the ball is going to come back over the net. Both of these teams are very scrappy because they play broke defensively. The ball is going to come back. And if we don't handle the ball, then we're going to be in trouble. And we cannot be discouraged when we attack the volleyball and they dig the ball because that's what's going to happen. It may take 2 or 3 rallies before the point is actually done. We need to stay patient. We need to finally stay patient. I think one of the things that we've done, especially against all the heavyweight teams that we've played, the Ohio States, the Lewises, and the Loyals, is that we've tried to press so hard. Instead of allowing the game to come to us, we need to be relaxed and just play the game.
And we'll see how playing the game goes. Both matches for the Mastodons will take place inside the Gates Center on top of Arnie Ball Court this weekend. Friday night, 7 o'clock against Quincy University, and then we'll turn around and play Saturday night at 7 o'clock against Lindenwood once again. And that wraps up our show for this week.
Another show.
Another show in the books, another week closer to Puerto Rico.
I can't wait for that special show in Puerto Rico in 2 weeks. Can't wait.
And we can't wait to see you inside the Gates Sports Center this weekend to help cheer on your VolleyDons. For Scott McNerney during our Spotlight segment, head coach Ryan Perrotte, I'm your host Jordan Armstrong. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition on VolleyDons Weekly. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.